Welcome all, welcome to this lab of advanced Java programming, and today we will refer some Java fundamentals. We will revise some Java fundamentals. Okay, let me show the disclaimer first. Okay, so let's get started. And yes, there is a good discussion that we have done in some last time. You can see that we can easily run VS Code. So if you are comfortable with VS Code, guys, then you can go with VS Code. I don't mind. Okay. The only thing is you should be able to you should be comfortable with debugging and all those things. Okay. So see, this is a simple application that I have made, wherein a simple Java class I had put. Okay. This is a class that simply is using various variables and has got various kinds of constructors, right? We saw these things last time, right? Now let's see some other examples. Okay, so let me just go to the core Java programs and okay, so let's use exceptions. Let's see what are exceptions, right? So okay, now let me take this exception demo class in NetBeans. Okay, I'll just say new Java class exception demo, finish. I'll just take all this code over here. Okay. What does this program do? This program creates a custom exception type. How is that possible? Check this out. See, there is this my exception class which is extending exception. Okay. Okay, before that, before we go for this, let me show you some very simple example of exception. And for that, let me create a new class called exception01. Now here, okay guys, so what we will be doing is we'll be generating some exceptions. Okay, we'll be generating some exceptions. Sorry for that. So we have int a equal to, let's make it a, and b and c. Okay, and here what we will be doing is, here we will be saying a is equal to 10 and c is equal to a divided by b. So this is not allowing me to use a, b and c. Why? What is the reason? Because this method is static method and these variables are not static. These are which types of variables? These are called as instance variables, which are not at all easily available directly in the static methods. You have to make an instance, an object, and then only you can access it. Okay. So for the time being, let's make it static. Let's make this variable static so that we can access them, right? So check this out. If I make A is equal to B is equal to 10, so I assign 10 to A and B both. Then I divide A by B and assign the answer to C. So if I run this particular program, okay, if I run this particular program, then you might see the answer is 1, right? The answer is 1. You can see that. But now, if I don't assign this 10 to B, so what will be the default value of B? Obviously, it will be 0, right? So now if I try to run it, oops, I think it has run another program. Let me run this program. There it is. You can see here you have got an exception. Here you have got an exception. What is the exception? Exception in thread main. So see, every method is running through a thread. Okay. So this main method has got a main thread, and this arithmetic exception was thrown. This arithmetic exception was thrown basically, which shows that divide by 0 exception has occurred. Okay, and it has occurred at this particular location in main, in this my app and this my app package exception 01 class main method, and this is the line number, and this is the file name. So all the details are given in the error. You see, you need to understand the error also. Okay. So now what happens is it is making this error. So now let me show you one more thing. If I make a method, let's call it as method 1. Okay, and here suppose we try to do all these things over there. Okay, and then here we call, just simply call the method. If we run this now, still it will give us error, but what will happen is that it will give you a stack trace. Take this stack trace. This stack trace shows that your exception occurred in thread main. This is the exception, this is the message, and it originated from where? So the starting point was this line number 12, that is this one. So that starting point comes in the end. You see, since it's a stack trace, so what happens is your first your control enters here for executing public static void main. It goes over here. From this part, it goes over here. It enters over here. It executes, and then it returns back for executing next statements. You see that? So what happened when the control came here, and then when it went over here, at this particular location, when it was executing, at this point it found out there is an exception. So from here the control was thrown. From here the control was thrown. So where would it get thrown? Obviously from where this it has been sent. So it is thrown over here. And from here also the control gets thrown. So it does not go ahead. This does not execute. Next statements does not execute. Okay. So you can simply check this. Check this out. If I say system.out.println method 1, okay, and now check this out. If I say equal to b equal to 10, and now if I run this, you can see method 1 is printed. So it means when this method 1 was called, control went over here, it assigned a equal to b equal to 10, it did this operation, division operation, and then printed this message 1, method 1, and then control came back and also printed this value of c, that is 1. But if we would not have assigned this 10 to b, so it means that by default the value of b would have been 0. So that would have become divided by 0, and that would have thrown the exception from this line itself. Okay. So from here itself it had been thrown out. So what happens? Control enters main. From here it goes to method 1. Okay, it executes these two, and from here it gets thrown out. From here it gets thrown out, and from here also it gets thrown out. So this statement does not execute, and this statement also does not execute. Okay, so now what you need is you need try catch. Okay, you need to have try catch, right? So try catch basically handles the exception. Okay, so either you provide try catch in this block or you provide try catch in this block. It's as simple as that. So let's say if we provide it over here, then how would it work? We say try catch exception e, and here we can simply print the exception. Okay, and then we print c. Okay, so what would happen? Oops. What would happen? See, check this out. Okay. So the whole code is in one page. Now you can see what happens. Control enters over here. It goes to method 1. From here, the control enters this method 1. Then it executes. From here, it is thrown back. And obviously, it directly gets caught over here in this catch. So now this program behaves properly. Obviously, this part does not get executed, but at least this part will get executed. So if you want to execute this part also, regardless of the exception, then you can put try catch over here on top of this. See that? So if I run this, you can see over here, it has shown the message. This is the exception. Okay. And this is value 0. And what if we put try catch over there, over here? Suppose we put it over here, then this method when one will also get printed. You see that? This method one will also get printed, this will also get printed, right? Let me run this again. You see this? The output says that this arithmetic exception has occurred. Then method 1 is also running and the answer is 0 for that C. You see that? So basically, this is how exceptions work and this is how we have to deal with it. Okay. One more thing. Now this was about try catch. Now there is something called as throw and throws. So what's the difference between this? Is the biggest, this is the biggest, one of the biggest questions, or one of the very important questions that is asked in interviews. That basically what is what is the difference between throw and throws? Okay. So can anyone of you answer that? Yes. What's the biggest difference between throw and throws? The keyword throw and throws. Difference between these two. Yes? Can anyone answer? Okay. So see what happens is throw and throws basically there is a vast difference. Okay. Let me make a copy of this class and let me paste it over here. Refactor copy. Name is exception02. Let's refactor it and copy it. Okay. So near here what I will be doing is I will say let me take this part. Let me just comment this part out. Okay. Okay, now check this out. Suppose I say that this method 1 throws exception. It throws exception. What does it throw? Then you can see directly over here there is an error. As soon as I have written this statement, this throws exception, it has given me an error over here. This IDE has given error before even running. So what's that error? Let's check at this point. If I click on this, the error says add throws clause for java.lang.exception. So you have to add throws clause. So what happens is it's like saying that this method can throw an exception. It throws exception. It is for sure that this method may throw an exception. That's what we have declared. So since we have declared and we have said that it will not be handling the exception, so the person or the method that who is calling this particular method needs to be very proper and it has to handle the exception. So since we are not handling the exception over here, it is giving us error. What is the error? You can see unreported exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. What does it say? Must be caught or declared to be thrown. So either take this part, take this try catch over here, and so in that way the error goes. Either you do it like this, that is how we did in the previous example, or what do you do? Let me just remove only this part. Or what do you do? It's just that you simply declare that this main throws exception. So now it's not your responsibility. When this method 1 declared that it throws exception, it was not its responsibility to handle the exception. So if at all there was any a code that would have explicitly thrown exception, then also this method would compile. But the calling method would have to use try catch in order to handle that, because since the control is transferred from one method to another, in the same way the exception is also thrown from the called method to the calling method. Okay. So it's like this, that you have a stack wherein the method names are there, right? All the method names, this is a sequence of methods. Suppose you have main method which called method 1, which in turn called method 2, right? So the transfer of control was from main to M1, from M1 to M2. So now what happens if any exception occurs in M2? Obviously it will get thrown in the same reverse sequence, from M2 to M1, from M1 to main. And main, if does not handle, then that also throws. And that shows us. This is shown to us on the console. Okay. So that is how exceptions work. And that is what the meaning of throws. Okay. Now what is throw? What is throw? Throw is basically if you explicitly throw an exception. Okay. So check this out. Here I use the try catch. Okay. And here instead of this to code, what code I put is, I put throw new exception and give it name as my exception. So see, the first error comes over here only. First error is coming over here only. A line after that. Why? Because it is for sure that the control is not going to go further from this line number 9. It is 100 and it's, let's say 200% it's sure. Not even 100%. It's 200% sure that control will not go ahead of this line number 9. So whatever statements you have written after it, whatever statement, how many statements, whatever number of statements you might have written after it, those are not at all going to execute in any situation. So that code becomes useless. And see, that's why we are getting the error over here, and it is saying unreachable statement. What is the error? That error is saying as unreachable statement. So it will not allow you to compile that code. So let's do one thing. Let's take this code on top of it. Okay. Now say it says throw new exception. Suppose if we have not put this throws keyword over here, let me show that. If I remove this, then it would have given me error over here. What is the error? Unreported exception must be caught or declared to be thrown. So either you declare it or you catch it. You see that? Right now it's giving me error. And if I would have kept this code over here, this throws declaration, then this would not give me any error. Okay. And now if I don't put this try catch also, if I remove this try catch also, then again it gives us error. What is the error? The same error. must be caught or declared to be thrown, unreported exception error. So what you do, either you use try catch, that is, either you catch the exception and handle it, or you throw it out. So you declare that the calling method will handle it. I am not interested in handling it. It's as simple as that. See that? So if I now run this, I will get the exception. Okay. Obviously this method was gone printed. Then we explicitly throw an exception, and you can see here is the message. That's my exception is the message, right? And if we handle it, even though we are declaring throws exception, if we handle it, then there is no issue. It will obviously be catching the exception, right? There is no issue. This throws exception does not mean it has to compulsorily throw. Understand, guys? This throws exception does not mean it has to compulsorily throw. So if I remove the statement, I just remove the statement, then also it won't give me any error. Then also it will run properly. You see that? But if I keep it, obviously it throws it. So throws exception, by declaring that a method throws an exception, it does not become compulsory for the method to throw an exception. It is a possibility. It says, it declares that there is a possibility of throwing an exception. So you have to handle it. Either you have to catch it, or you have to again throw it. That depends on the calling method. Okay. So that is a simple exception type, right? That's a simple exception. Now let's see, a more advanced thing is you declare your own exception. For example, here we say class my exception extends exception. It has got a variable called detail, and when we call its constructor, we pass a value a to it. The detail is assigned to detail a, and there is a toString method. You remember this toString method? This is invoked whenever we put the object into the whenever we want the object to be stored as a string or to be displayed as a string. Whenever we use the object into println method, at that time this toString method is automatically called. So here we display, it returns my exception and the detail. And in this exception demo, what do we do is we typically see here in main. Let me show you in main. In main, what do we do? In main, we call compute1 and compute20. What is that? Compute is the method where we pass a value, and we say here we print that called compute1, and then we say if a is greater than 10, then throw new my exception. Okay. Else, obviously there is no else part. So if there is a is not greater than 10, then automatically it will print normal exit. And then you say compute 20. So again the control goes over here. It says called compute 20. A is greater than 10. Yes, it is greater than 10. So it will throw the exception with the value 20. Okay. And so if you run this file, you'll get some output like this. That first, the compute1 gets called, there is a normal exit. Then this compute20 gets called, but it throws an exception. But yes, the exception was caught. So it was, by looking at the output, it does not seem as there was some problem in the execution of the program. But since we had put try catch, it at least was able to run properly and also display the message properly. You see, so that's exceptions. That's all about exceptions, guys. So that was the revision of exceptions today. Okay, so any doubt you can ask me. Okay, I'll stop the recording. We can have interaction.